Under the lights of a luxurious restaurant in Lagos, a young single mother tries to hide her embarrassment as her special needs daughter knocks over a glass of juice. Cruel laughter echoes, disdainful glances surround her, and the waiter treats her with contempt. But when everyone expected just another humiliation, a millionaire from the next table stands up, and that silent gesture would change their lives forever. The glass doors of the restaurant swung open, letting in the warm breeze of the Lagos night, mingling with the sophisticated perfume lingering in the air. The chandelier-lit dining room reflected the opulence of the setting: marble tables, silver cutlery, impeccably dressed waiters, and a clientele adorned in international designer brands. In this scene, a woman in a simple dress, its fabric slightly worn by time, walked with hesitant steps, holding the tiny hand of a girl with curious eyes. The contrast between the mother and daughter and the glittering space drew quick glances, as if evaluating something that didn't belong. The high heels of nearby patrons seemed to tap the floor in rhythm with the hushed whispers. A raised eyebrow here and there betrayed the silent judgment forming in the air, as if their presence were an interruption in a perfectly rehearsed scene. A waiter approached with an automatic smile, one trained to convey friendliness without truly feeling it, but his stiff posture and up-and-down glance revealed his discomfort. As he led the pair to a table far off near the kitchen, his tone was cold, almost impatient, as if eager to finish the service quickly. In a place where regular patrons had dedicated waiters who remembered their favorite dishes and wine preferences, this mother received only a menu slapped down hastily on the table, without so much as a warm greeting. Her daughter, fascinated by the sparkling chandeliers, swung her legs in a chair too big for her, smiling innocently. In that moment, even without understanding the looks around her, her joy seemed like a small ray of light in a room full of veiled judgment, which only heightened the oddity of the reactions. Across the room, a table of socialites exuded expensive perfume and loud laughter. Women with dazzling jewelry and men in tailored suits made comments between sips of wine, casting curious glances at the new scene. One of them, known in high society for her sharp tongue, leaned over to whisper something to her friend, eliciting a muffled laugh that echoed to the mother and daughter's table. The heavy atmosphere became almost palpable. In a setting where status was displayed in every detail, the presence of a woman in a simple dress and worn shoes seemed an affront to the rehearsed perfection. Yet, the innocent sparkle in the girl's eyes remained unshaken, as if all the coldness were just an insignificant detail. As the mother discreetly tried to call the waiter to order something simple, perhaps rice, beans, and grilled chicken, no extravagance, an incident changed everything. A glass of juice, hastily placed by the waiter, fell to the floor with a crash. The orange liquid spilled across the table, staining the hem of the mother's dress. The girl's startled look made her hand tremble further, knocking cutlery to the floor, the metallic clatter echoing through the silent room. At that moment, a loud laugh cut through the air. One of the women from the socialites' table, in a shimmering red dress, tossed her hair back and let out a laugh that seemed rehearsed to humiliate. The entire room turned to watch the scene, as if it were an unexpected spectacle. The mother took a deep breath, trying to smile at her daughter while whispering soothing words. But her expression betrayed the exhaustion of someone who had faced many such looks, many judgments without knowing her story. She tried to discreetly clean the table with napkins, but the waiter returned with a reproachful glare, as if the incident were their fault. The child, sensing the weight of the environment, began to shrink her shoulders, clutching her mother's hand tightly, her innocent smile fading. The tension in the room grew, as if everyone awaited the next scene in a silent drama. At that moment, the mother wished only to vanish, but there was nowhere to go. At the next table, an elegant man in a tailored suit watched the scene in silence. His serious expression didn't hide his discomfort. It was clear he wasn't accustomed to seeing injustices, ignored in public, especially in a place frequented by Nigeria's elite. His light brown eyes reflected indignation, but also a genuine curiosity. Who were these two strangers who dared to exist with dignity in a space that seemed designed to reject them? While others whispered or laughed, he sat with his arms crossed, observing every detail, every gesture. The nervous waiter, the socialite's disdain, the mother's growing embarrassment, it all painted a troubling picture. And in that moment, something inside him urged him to intervene, though he didn't yet know why. In African Village Story, every tale makes you feel like you're right there. Subscribe now and stay one step ahead of the twists no one sees coming. Adewale sat near the panoramic window, the city lights of Lagos reflecting on his serious face. His tailored suit wasn't just a sign of wealth, but of someone who had built an empire with discipline and intelligence. Despite his power, he preferred discreet places, away from the spotlight. And this dinner was no exception. But witnessing the scene of humiliation unfolding a few meters away stirred a growing restlessness in him. In a calm yet firm movement, he rose from his chair. The sound of the chair scraping across the marble floor silenced the room for a moment. Every eye turned to the businessman, known for avoiding public appearances, now walking toward a mother, trying to hide tears while cleaning the wet hem of her dress. The tension in the room became palpable, as if everyone knew something extraordinary was about to happen. Without asking permission, Adewale approached and gently placed a hand on the back of the mother's chair, leaning slightly to speak. His deep, controlled voice contrasted with the coldness that had previously dominated the room. With a firm gesture, he called the waiter, ordering the table to be cleaned immediately and requesting that their meal be served at his own table, one of the most coveted in the restaurant. The yak patrons watched, stunned. It was rare to see someone of his stature intervene for strangers. His decision sparked an immediate murmur, with whispers rippling through the room. Does he know her? Why would he do that? The surprise was evident, but no one dared question him aloud. The respect and fear his name commanded mingled with the shock that filled the restaurant. The mother, flustered, tried to politely decline, her gaze shifting between her daughter playing with a napkin and the curious stares of the patrons. Her racing heart betrayed her discomfort. She was used to being invisible, not the center of attention. But Adewale remained calm, leaning down to meet her eyes and insisting with kindness. There was no arrogance in his gesture, only a natural authority that left no room for argument. With a simple nod, he urged her to accept, and in that moment, something shifted in the air. The woman felt a mix of relief and fear, relief at no longer being alone, fear at not understanding the reason for such an unexpected gesture. The silence that had been awkward now carried a different weight, as if everyone awaited the next act in an unscripted play. As the plates were cleared from his table to make room for her and her daughter, the murmurs grew louder. An older patron whispered, "This isn't like Adewale." His name frequently appeared in newspapers and business magazines, always tied to million-dollar deals, international investments, and a fortune built from nothing. The son of a seamstress raised in a humble neighborhood, his story inspired many but also intimidated. Seeing someone who valued anonymity take a stand for a stranger in public sparked curiosity across the room. While the mother helped her daughter settle at the new table, the restaurant seemed divided between those who rooted for her and those who looked at her with disdain. For many there, social status remained an invisible, unbreakable barrier. But in that moment, one of those barriers fell before everyone's eyes. Adewale didn't just offer his table, he brought with him a silent gesture of dignity. There were no speeches, no justifications, just a powerful man recognizing the worth of two people everyone else preferred to ignore. That moment transformed the atmosphere. The mocking laughter ceased, the whispers grew quieter, and an uncomfortable silence settled over the room. It was as if everyone realized they were witnessing someone capable of rewriting the narrative. With a single gesture, imagine being with your child in an upscale restaurant, surrounded by disdainful stares and cruel laughter, and no one does anything. What would you feel? Write one word in the comments that describes that emotion. Zainabu maintained an elegant posture, even as she felt the weight of every glance on her movements. She wasn't in that restaurant by chance. Her life as an independent consultant required frequent meetings with businessmen and clients, and that day, she had decided to make a simple moment special for Ayomide. The girl, with her radiant smile and spontaneous movements, drew attention wherever she went. What was a source of pride for Zainabu seemed a reason for judgment to many there. Disapproving looks came from all sides, as if a child with special needs were an interruption to the luxurious setting. The embarrassment grew, but she kept her chin up, aware that she deserved to be there as much as any other patron. The strength that kept her going didn't come from luxury or privilege, but from years of dedicated work. Zainabu had learned to face prejudice with grace, even when it was disguised as forced smiles or cold service. She knew that for many, The restaurant wasn't just a place for dining, but a stage where status was displayed in every detail. She refused to let her daughter grow up believing she didn't belong in certain spaces. That night was a silent lesson. Aomide needed to learn early on that her presence had value, even when the world insisted on treating her as an outsider. As she helped her daughter settle into the high chair, she recalled all the times she'd faced similar looks in clinics, events, and schools. Nigerian society, despite its rich culture and warmth, still carried a silent taboo about children with special needs. Many families hid their children, fearing judgment, but Zainabu never gave in to that. So, even under muffled laughter and sidelong glances, she remained there with elegance. But the waiter's coldness, the socialite's whispers, and the loud laugh that echoed through the room began to crack her emotional armor. For the first time that night, she felt the urge to grab Aomide and run, just to shield her from it all. It was at that moment that a detail shifted the night's dynamic. A powerful man stood up without a word, crossed the room with firm steps, and broke, with a single gesture, the narrative being built around them. Adewale's act didn't just bring comfort, it restored something Zainabu hadn't felt in years: dignity. For the first time, someone stood up for them without being asked. That contrast, coming from a man known for his silence and discretion, stirred something deep within her. What began as a night marked by embarrassment now held a spark of hope, though she had no idea how that encounter would change everything. Have you ever felt like you had to prove you belonged somewhere? Comment one word that defines that feeling. Zainabu adjusted her glasses discreetly while watching Aomide, who was now playing with a napkin, distracted by the restaurant's twinkling lights. Her heart, still racing from the earlier embarrassment, pounded in her chest, but she maintained an upright posture and calm expression, like someone who had learned to hide life's scars behind a serene face. It had always been this way, a woman who faced everything with dignity, even when reality seemed intent on diminishing her. Raising a daughter with special needs had made her stronger and more resilient, but also more cautious. She'd learned to distrust easy smiles as they often hid ulterior motives. Despite her nerves, there was something different about Adewale's presence, a kind of respect rarely seen, especially from a man so influential. The businessman kept a discreet demeanor, showing no rush to approach again. While speaking with the waiter to ensure they were served with care, he exchanged quick glances with Zainabu, as if trying to convey confidence, without invading her space. When he sat across from her, he made a point to ask about Aomide first. The mother noticed there was no invasive curiosity in his voice, only genuine interest. The girl, with her easy smile and curious eyes, won Adewale over instantly, and he treated her with the same gentleness he used in his business dealings. For Zainabu, this was unusual. She was accustomed to uncomfortable looks, people changing the subject, or avoiding contact whenever Aomide behaved differently. In that moment, she felt seen as a woman, a mother, not as someone carrying a problem. The conversation was brief, but meaningful. Adewale didn't ask overly personal questions or try to flaunt his influence. When he quietly asked for her contact information, he did so naturally without theatrics. He said only that he wanted to ensure she had a support network if needed. That simplicity disarmed Zainabu, but also awakened the caution she'd developed over the years. She'd received empty promises of help before. She knew how cruel the world could be to women like her. Though she stood before a man whose demeanor inspired confidence, she refused to let herself get carried away. Still, she handed him her phone number, scribbled on a small napkin with trembling hands. Her mind raced to understand if this gesture stemmed from pity, interest, or something deeper. As she walked out of the restaurant, the cool night air contrasted with the tension she'd carried during dinner. The headlights of cars illuminated the bustling streets of Lagos, but inside her everything felt quiet. That night's episode wasn't just a fleeting memory. Something in her intuition told her this man hadn't entered her life by chance. Still, she chose caution. She'd learned that trusting too much could come at a high cost. She recalled situations where people promised opportunities and delivered only humiliation. That thought made her grip her daughter's hand tightly as they walked to the car. But what she didn't know was that Adewale, still seated at his table, watched her every step, intrigued by the quiet strength of a woman who asked for nothing but deserved everything. Back in the car, Zainabu settled Aomide into her car seat and took a deep breath, feeling a whirlwind of emotions. The contact saved in her phone seemed like just another number, But there was a different energy in that exchange. Her daughter fell asleep quickly, and the silence of the car was filled with memories of the night. Despite the veiled discrimination, there was a sense of victory. They hadn't left the restaurant humiliated. On the contrary, they'd been defended by someone who didn't seem to fear others' judgment. Unknowingly, Zainabu had begun a new chapter in her life, one where courage and destiny would start to intertwine in unexpected ways. Adewale wasn't known only for the fortune he'd built, but for how he analyzed people and situations with a clinical eye, honed by years of million-dollar negotiations. The restaurant scene left him intrigued. This woman didn't seem to be asking for anything, showing no signs of dependency or opportunism. There was dignity in her posture, something that sparked an unusual curiosity. Upon returning home, he asked his trusted assistant to discreetly investigate who the mother who caught his attention that night was. Within hours, reports began arriving, and amidst spreadsheets of contracts and packed schedules, an unexpected story unfolded before his eyes. Zainabu wasn't just a single mother struggling to raise a special needs daughter. She had once worked in his own company's administrative department until she was fired for poor performance. But the investigation revealed something different. She'd been scapegoated by a corrupt supervisor who sold internal information. This discovery sparked a mix of indignation and responsibility in Adewale, as if that injustice had been a pivotal moment that set her life on a different path. In the following days, discreet decisions began to change Zainabu's routine without her knowledge. Job interview invitations started appearing in her inbox, opportunities tailored to her skills at companies that valued administrative talent. Medical appointments for Ayomide, previously delayed by months, were mysteriously moved up. Renowned specialists began offering cutting-edge treatments. Everything seemed like coincidence, but it was the result of a powerful man working behind the scenes. Adewale chose not to reveal himself at that moment. In his experience, observing how someone reacts to silent help was a test of character, and Zainabu kept working hard, refusing to rely on favors, which only deepened his respect for her. To him, each small reaction of hers reinforced a certainty. This woman had a rare strength, and he was determined to protect it. Days after that dinner, Zainabu continued her intense routine, balancing remote work, Ayomide's medical appointments, and small consulting, contracts that ensured her stability. She had no idea that many of the obstacles that once delayed her life were now being quietly resolved behind the scenes. A job opening that seemed tailor-made for her skills appeared as an unexpected invitation, while the endless wait for her daughter's medical consultations began to move surprisingly fast. Everything seemed like the work of chance, and Zainabu preferred to believe these were just blessings arriving after years of struggle. But for Adewale, every detail was part of a silent strategy, ensuring this mother had a solid foundation before he approached her personally again. Their second interaction didn't happen in a luxurious restaurant or at a social event, but in a private children's hospital, where Ayomide had an important appointment. Zainabu had secured the slot thanks to a mysterious contact who referred her daughter's case. Upon arriving, she was surprised by the welcoming environment, unlike the crowded public hospitals she was used to. While filling out forms at the reception, a familiar figure appeared beside her. Adewale, with a discreet smile and a relaxed demeanor, greeted the mother and daughter as if the encounter were pure coincidence. The simple gesture, a handshake, an attentive look at Ayomide, a brief conversation, had a profound impact. For the first time, Zainabu saw the man who had defended her dignity that night in a more human light, free from the weight of luxury around him. After the appointment, Adewale insisted on walking them to the parking lot. The walk to the car was marked by light but meaningful conversation. He asked about the treatments, listened patiently to the routine of caring for Ayomide, and Zainabu, though still wary, felt strangely at ease. Her daughter, usually shy with strangers, smiled at him naturally, even reaching out to hold his hand as they walked. That small detail, almost imperceptible, touched Zainabu. It was rare for anyone to earn her daughter's trust so quickly. In that moment, an invisible barrier between them began to crumble. In the days that followed, Adewale began to appear subtly at key moments, bringing flowers for Ayomide during a routine hospitalization, sending personalized children's books, helping with transportation when he noticed Zainabu was overwhelmed, all without ostentation always respecting their space. He didn't present himself as a savior. On the contrary, he made it clear he saw Zainabu as a strong, admirable woman. These silent gestures created a genuine bond, and little by little the mother began to let him into her world. Still, she remained cautious. She wasn't used to receiving sincere attention without a price. Their relationship began to draw attention in hospital corridors, at business meetings where Zainabu resumed work as a consultant, and even at small events where Adewale made a point to appear with them. To many, the reserved businessman seemed different, more human, more present, less concerned with appearances. This contrast naturally sparked comments in high society. Marayo, who still followed his life from a distance, began to hear rumors. Discreet photos of Adewale leaving with a low-profile woman and a smiling girl started circulating in private groups. That's when the powerful socialite realized someone new was occupying the space that once was hers, and her instinct for destruction awakened. While Adewale quietly built a support network, someone else began watching his movements closely. Marayo, a stunning and influential socialite, Adewale's ex-fiancée, still maintained connections in high society and the media. Since their breakup, she had never fully accepted the end of their relationship. Noticing the powerful businessman engaging in unusual matters, her controlling instincts kicked in. Paparazzi photos began circulating in private groups. Adewale in discreet meetings, visits to specialized clinics, calls outside work hours. Nothing explicit, but enough to spark suspicion that a new woman might be entering his life. Curiosity quickly turned to jealousy, and like a wounded predator, Marayo decided to uncover the threat before it became public. Determined to regain control, Marayo mobilized her media contacts, requesting discreet investigations into any woman linked to Adewale's name. When Zainabu's name surfaced, along with details about her special needs daughter and a mysterious firing, Marayo saw the perfect opportunity to destroy any chance of romance before it began. With her influence, she manipulated journalists to dig into Zainabu's life, seeking vulnerabilities that could become headlines. Small details, like old addresses, past jobs, and family situations, were twisted into stories that could be used against her. What Marayo didn't know was that, by trying to tarnish Zainabu's image, she was challenging a man who not only had power, but also the intelligence to anticipate her every move. While Zainabu went about her routine, unaware of the storm brewing, Adewale had already noticed unusual activity in the media and social networks. Subtly planted stories began to circulate, hinting at a mysterious new relationship. The businessman, however, wasn't one to react hastily. He chose to observe, gather evidence, and simultaneously strengthen Zainabu's position. For him, it wasn't just about an emerging affection, but a matter of justice. Revisiting his company's records, he found clear proof that Zainabu's firing had been orchestrated to cover up the corrupt supervisor's illicit schemes. That information was gold, and Adewale knew the right time to use it would come. At that point in the story, two worlds were about to collide. On one side, a mother fighting to raise her daughter with dignity, unaware that a powerful man was watching her with genuine interest. On the other, an influential woman accustomed to controlling narratives and manipulating the media, determined to destroy any rival. At the center of this silent battle was Adewale, a man unafraid to play on the same board as Nigeria's elite magnates, but this time moving pieces not for profit, but for something far rarer: respect and true admiration. The first headline appeared in a local gossip portal, with a low-quality photo of Zainabu holding Ayomide's hand outside the hospital. The sensationalist caption read, "Single mother uses daughter to gain attention of billionaire businessman." The article, filled with malicious assumptions, implied that Zainabu had infiltrated Adewale's life to exploit his fortune. Within hours, smaller blogs republished the content, adding distorted versions of the story. WhatsApp groups began sharing the photo with cruel comments, calling her a gold digger. Colleagues started treating her coldly, and within a week, a formal email informed her of her termination, claiming her image did not align with the company's standards. The world Zainabu had built with so much effort crumbled before her eyes, and all this without her having done anything to deserve it. Zainabu spent sleepless nights trying to understand what was happening. At first, she thought it was just a coincidence, but the speed with which the information spread and the orchestrated nature of it all bred a bitter suspicion. She realized the rumors started soon after her connection with Adewale, and so, heartbroken, she began to believe he might be involved somehow. For a woman used to facing prejudice alone, it was easier to pull away than to risk trusting again. Through tears, she deleted messages, ignored calls, and avoided places where she might run into him. Iomide, not understanding her mother's decisions, innocently asked for Adewale, making it all the more painful. But Zainabu was determined. She needed to protect her daughter from the media storm, even if it meant giving up the only man who had publicly defended her dignity. Across town, Adewale watched everything in silence. The businessman, known for controlling information with an iron fist, was stunned by the speed and precision of the attack. His business experience taught him to recognize a smear campaign. Nothing in those articles was random. Seeing Zainabu vanish without explanation fueled a quiet rage within him. With the help of a private investigation team, he began tracing the source of the rumors. Within days, he discovered that Morayo, his ex-fiancée, was behind the operation. She was using her media connections to destroy Zainabu's reputation to drive her away for good. Adewale knew Morayo was influential, but he hadn't expected such boldness. This revelation turned his initial discomfort into determination. Now it wasn't just about protecting Zainabu, it was a matter of honor. Morayo wasn't easily intimidated. Realizing Adewale had uncovered her interference, she played a new card. She threatened to expose a secret from his past that could ruin his public image. Years ago, a car accident involving Adewale resulted in the death of a close friend. Though cleared legally, he carried the emotional weight of the incident, and he knew the media would exploit it to destroy him. The dilemma was cruel: protect his reputation and career, or risk watching Zainabu continue to be humiliated for something she didn't do. Morayo believed this secret would keep him silent, but she underestimated the character of the man she once loved. For Adewale, the fear of losing contracts and influence no longer mattered as much as the idea of letting an innocent woman be crushed by a hate campaign. The turning point came when a video went viral on social media, showing Zainabu being harassed in a supermarket. A stranger filmed her, while a group of customers made cruel comments calling her a con artist. The footage spread rapidly, and the public humiliation became unbearable. Adewale watched the scene in his office, alone, feeling a mix of anger and shame. For the first time in years, he felt that all the wealth and power he possessed were worthless if he couldn't protect the people he cared about. It was then that he made a decision that would change everything. He would reveal his secret to the world, even if it cost him his reputation. If society wanted headlines, he would give them, but on his terms. With a team of lawyers and communication strategists, Adewale began planning a press conference. Instead of denying or hiding his past, he would tell the full truth about the accident, showing he had nothing to fear. This bold and risky decision transformed him into an unexpected figure in his own narrative, no longer the untouchable businessman, but a man willing to sacrifice everything for justice. As he announced the press conference, blogs and news outlets exploded with speculation. Morayo, for the first time, felt her influence threatened, and Zainabu, upon hearing the news, realized she was facing someone who not only cared, but was willing to confront Nigeria's elite to defend her. The tables had turned, and the silent war was about to go public. The public hospital was crowded with narrow corridors and long lines. Noisy ceiling fans spun lazily, while patients waited with weary faces. Amid this scene, Zainabu sat on a plastic bench, clutching Ayomide's medical documents tightly. Her gaze was distant, but her restless fingers betrayed her anxiety. That morning, her simple clothes and makeshift bun revealed a woman who hadn't slept well, yet her upright posture and calm demeanor remained a shield against the surrounding chaos. And it was in this setting, so different from the boardrooms and luxurious restaurants Adewale typically frequented, that he entered quietly. No bodyguards, no expensive watches on display, just a shirt rolled up to the elbows. His presence went unnoticed, as few there knew who he was. Adewale walked to the bench where Zainabu sat and stood before her. Without a word, he took the seat beside her, leaving a small distance to respect her space. There were no expensive colognes or formality in the way he clasped his hands on his knees. He seemed like an ordinary man, just someone willing to be present. That simplicity disarmed Zainabu more than any grand gesture could. They sat in silence for a few minutes, the hospital's loudspeakers announcing names in the background, while her heart raced, confused by the contrast of this powerful man sitting humbly in a public corridor. When he finally spoke, Adewale's low voice wasn't a speech but a confession. He shared that he'd grown up in a modest Lagos neighborhood, the only child of a seamstress who worked day and night to pay for his education. He said he knew well the judgmental looks, the whispers in places where he didn't seem to belong. That struggle for respect shaped his character, and it was why he felt a connection to Zainabu's silent strength. His words carried no pity, only genuine admiration. Each sentence seemed to chip away at the wall she'd built around her heart. Zainabu listened in silence, feeling tears well up but refusing to let them fall. For the first time, she didn't see the famous billionaire from magazine covers, but a man who understood her pain intimately. Ayomide, sitting on her mother's lap, reached out to Adewale, smiling innocently. The scene broke down any remaining barriers. He held the girl naturally, as if he were already part of their small world. In that simple gesture, Zainabu saw an undeniable truth. This man wasn't there to rescue anyone, but to share the burden she'd carried alone for years. The minutes that followed were filled with an unexpected calm. Adewale didn't promise magical solutions or apologize for recent events. He simply stood by her side as someone willing to fight alongside her. That genuine stance brought quiet relief. In a world where many sought only status and advantage, Zainabu found someone who, despite all his power, chose to be present in the midst of chaos without drawing attention to himself. It was on that hospital bench that she decided for the first time to open a small crack in her emotional fortress. She wasn't ready to trust fully, but she allowed Adewale to truly enter her life as a friend, a support, and perhaps something greater she wasn't yet ready to name. Do you believe true strength lies in those who protect quietly? Comment below. Who would you let into your life after so many scars? The days following their hospital reunion marked the start of a silent but profound transformation. Adewale, with all his influence, decided to seek justice not just behind the scenes, but publicly. With his legal team, he gathered documents, testimonies, and evidence debunking every malicious headline that had circulated months earlier. Soon, official statements began appearing in the media. Zainabu wasn't the opportunist they claimed, but a woman targeted by a smear campaign. In an exclusive interview, renowned journalists publicly apologized for publishing unverified information. Nigeria's elite, accustomed to such stories fading quietly, were surprised. For the first time, someone was willing to clear an unjustly tarnished woman's name without hiding her. Her name now appeared alongside words like courage, resilience, and dignity, and the shift in narrative began to capture everyone's attention. The greatest proof of this change came when Adewale took the main stage at his company's corporate event, broadcast live. Alongside executives, journalists, and employees, he delivered a speech no one expected. In a firm voice, he recounted Zainabu's story, explaining how she'd been a victim of persecution within his own company years ago, scapegoated by a corrupt supervisor. Then, he apologized publicly, not as a businessman but as a human, and in front of hundreds of employees and cameras, he handed her a reinstatement letter. The job she'd unjustly lost was hers again, but not in the same role. Zainabu was promoted to a management position, recognizing not only her competence but her strength. The auditorium, used to cold announcements about profits and results, erupted in applause. It was a rare scene, an entire company cheering for a woman who had once been invisible. Zainabu walked onto the stage slowly, still stunned by the gesture. Wearing a simple dress, her posture exuded natural elegance. The image of her holding the reinstatement letter graced newspapers the next day. The narrative had completely shifted. What was once a scandal had become a story of triumph. TV shows sought her for interviews. Journalists who once mocked her now spoke of her courage in facing social pressure. Yet, she remained discreet. There were no rehearsed speeches or displays of exaggerated pride. Zainabu was simply a woman, bearing the marks of her struggles, now with her worth recognized. That simplicity made her even more admired. While the media celebrated Adewale's gesture, many realized the greatest gift he gave Zainabu wasn't the job or the resources for Ayomide's treatment. It was restoring her dignity. She now walked the company's corridors with respect, not because she was linked to the country's most powerful man, but because her story now represented hundreds of silenced employees. Colleagues who once looked at her with disdain now greeted her with genuine admiration. The episode sparked internal changes. Policies against harassment and persecution were implemented, and Zainabu's name became a reference in corporate training as an example of resilience. Without realizing it, she had become a voice for those who never dared to speak. The impact went beyond the company's walls. On social media, thousands began sharing her story, using hashtags like #JusticeForZainabu. Single mothers, women victims of defamation, and people who faced injustices saw her journey as a symbol. The image of Iomide smiling at one of the company's events went viral, accompanied by messages of support. People who had never cared about social causes began discussing accessibility, discrimination, and inequality. Adewale's gesture didn't just rewrite one woman's story, it sparked a national conversation. Yet, despite all the commotion, Zainabu remained the same, reserved, simple, focused on caring for her daughter. The sudden fame didn't turn her into a celebrity, but into someone who carried her pain and triumph with the same humility. At that moment, Adewale watched from afar, careful not to steal the spotlight. He knew that while his influence opened doors, the respect Zainabu earned was her own doing. What moved him wasn't the media buzz or applause, but the subtle smile she gave when she saw Iomide receiving attention and affection without prejudice. That smile, once tinged with sadness, now carried hope. It was proof that his fight had been worth it. But deep down, Adewale knew there was a bigger battle, winning her heart not with grand gestures, but with time, patience, and truth. If you were in Zainabu's place, would you forgive the world that humiliated you and applaud the one who lifted you up? Write one word in the comments that captures how you'd feel in this scene. Months had passed since the scandal that shook Lagos and turned Zainabu's name into a symbol of courage. Now the scene was different. A large garden, lit by fairy lights, strung through ancient trees, served as the stage for a charity event organized by Adewale. Elegant rugs covered the grass. Long tables were adorned with tropical flowers, and at the back a simple stage awaited a speech that would change not just that night, but the lives of many families. The setting was sophisticated, yet unpretentious. No extravagance, just the care of someone who wanted everyone to feel welcome. Among the guests, journalists, business people, and community leaders mingled with mothers accompanied by children, many with special needs. The presence of these families gave the event a human warmth, far from the formal dinners the elite typically attended. Zainabu, in an elegant but simply cut dress, walked through the garden hand in hand with Adewale. Camera flashes captured their every step, but she didn't seem intimidated. She had learned to handle public attention without losing her essence. Her eyes, once marked by distrust and fear, now shone with serenity. Beside her, Adewale maintained his usual serious demeanor, but a slight smile betrayed that this moment was special. The two didn't need words to show the bond between them. It was evident in the way he gently squeezed her hand, in how she took a deep breath, feeling safe, and in the proud look they shared, watching Iomide run across the grass, healthy, her laughter echoing like a victory over all the days of struggle. When the MC announced Adewale's entrance, all eyes turned to the stage. The man known as one of Nigeria's most influential businessmen wasn't there to talk about investments or deals, but to present a project born from the story of a woman who dared to endure. In his speech, he recalled the night he saw a mother humiliated in a restaurant and how that moment became a turning point in his own life. "She taught me that strength isn't about wealth, but about carrying a world on your shoulders without losing dignity," he said, his voice firm but laden with emotion. As he announced the creation of the Iomide Foundation, dedicated to supporting single mothers and children with special needs, the audience rose in applause. The name of Zainabu's daughter now stood as a symbol of hope, and silent tears rolled down the face of the woman who for so long had been invisible to society. The impact was immediate. Journalists broadcast live. Influencers shared every word Adewale spoke. But the most striking moment wasn't captured by cameras. As he stepped off the stage and handed over the microphone, he walked to Zainabu and gently took her hand. That simple gesture said everything words couldn't convey. This wasn't a relationship built on status, but on mutual admiration. The mothers present approached Zainabu to congratulate her, many tearfully saying they felt represented by her. For the first time, the woman who once fled a restaurant in humiliation was now a reference for other women facing similar battles. That recognition moved her more than any applause or published photo. Iomide's transformation also became a symbol. The girl, who once faced long lines and subpar medical care, now had access to top specialists and treatments. But what delighted Zainabu most was seeing her play freely, unjudged. Children ran through the garden, volunteers and professionals from the new foundation assisted families, and the event felt more like a grand celebration of life than a formal ceremony. Watching this scene, Zainabu realized her greatest achievement wasn't the social prestige she'd gained, but knowing her story had opened doors for many other women who, like her, were constantly underestimated. Her relationship with Adewale had also found a rare balance. Though constantly hounded by the media, they learned to protect each other. Their love didn't stem from grand gestures or dramatic declarations, but from small acts. The respectful silence in the hospital, the support on tough days, the constant presence without demands. Now, walking together through the foundation's garden, side by side, with Iomide smiling ahead, they carried more than a relationship. They carried a cause. The woman once accused of being an opportunist now walked with dignity, inspiring thousands of families to believe their stories also deserve to be rewritten. The event ended under a shower of applause, but the true consecration came when an emotional reporter said aloud, "Zainabu, today you're proof that justice exists." The phrase resonated in the hearts of everyone present, summing up that journey of pain, courage and triumph. Her name, once used as gossip fodder, was now tied to hope. Beside Adewale, who looked at her with quiet pride, she understood that her greatest legacy wasn't her position in the company or her newfound prestige, but the certainty that her story had changed lives. That realization brought a peace no wealth could buy. Zainabu, Adewale and Ayomide's story shows that true love isn't born from luxury, but from courage, respect and empathy. A woman once humiliated now inspires thousands, and her journey is proof that justice exists. And there are still many emotional stories to make you believe in the power of hope. Click the video below and dive into another narrative that will touch your heart. Until then.